Let the record show that all 7 board members are here. We have no minutes to approve. We had 2 items added, P3 and TL1. Dr. Fenoy, anything that you need to withdraw or at this point?
No, there's no withdrawals at this time.
And items pulled. Anybody want to pull any items? If not, is there a motion to approve the agenda? Motion by Mrs. Andrews, second by Dr. Robinson. All in favor, all opposed, motion carries. No disclosures or abstentions, I assume, for this one. Superintendent and board member comments. Dr. Fenoy.
Yes, board members, first I'd like to thank you all for your support during these first few weeks. I had the amazing opportunity to attend the Executive Class 10 of Florida, Leadership Florida, my first week, and had the privilege of meeting stellar leaders from all over the state, and it will be very valuable to us as a school system and here in Palm Beach County. As you know, the work of the sales tax referendum is going strong. We frequently associate most of that work with roofs and HVAC units because they are often the most pressing and visual needs, but the referendum is funding other important things. I like audio systems in our classrooms, and I like to start off with a video that demonstrates some of that additional work.
Kelly Elcaro really connects with her kids. Thanks to her passion for teaching.
The bottom is 6 feet. What does the opposite side have to be?
And a brand new audio system that features a microphone around her neck, an amplifier utilizing the latest technology, and 4 speakers in the ceiling. That allows her 3rd graders at Orchard View Elementary School to hear every word she teaches.
Since it's amplified throughout the whole classroom, there's never a moment where they don't know what's going on. I can get their attention more easily, and all in the same voice level. I don't have to raise my voice at all.
Thanks to new dollars from the penny sales tax, the school district has been busy installing audio enhancement systems or repairing old equipment in every instructional area in 177 schools. Audio technician Alan Leadham works after hours to ensure there are no classroom disruptions. He calls the new gear state-of-the-art.
The new sound is just phenomenal compared to the old sound. It's not even in the same league.
Gary Weidenhammer, director of the district's educational technology team, says 54% of schools have already received audio improvements. The project on schedule to be completed by June.
And it's amazing how much clearer you can hear in the classroom when the mic is on than when the mic is off.
And teachers love using the mics to quiz students.
What was the squirrel doing while he was standing on this tree trunk?
He was hiding his nuts.
Marvin Etienne says there were times he couldn't hear his teachers, but not anymore.
So it's good, so we could hear her now because we can learn more better and listen to her.
The students' response to the improvements and the new system, they both sound great inside our classrooms and help ensure that children won't miss a word. I'm Rick Blackwell for the Education Network, keeping you informed.
I just wanted to take a moment just to thank the entire facilities team and the IT team, all the people, the finance team, everybody associated with getting this work done. And we will continue to make sure that the community is updated on the plethora of work that we have out on the streets right now. At this time, as it relates to some realignment from the legislator, I'd like to bring forward Mr. Oswald and Mr. Howard to the table to alert you to a proposed change to the state concurrent scores that will adversely impact our students should DOE pass them.
Thank you, Dr. Fenoy, and good afternoon again, board members. This is an issue that was brought up to you all back in, I think it was earlier this school year during a structural review about the DOE bringing in a proposed increase to the concordance score for graduation requirements. At that time, the board asked to be informed about any decisions that were going to be move forward. During this time, Mr. Howard, we worked closely with Dr. Avosa to bring a white paper to the DOE, as well as a number of other school districts did as well, about the concerns about the raising of the concordance scores. They took that under review, and came out just recently during our spring break of a new proposal. We do have some concerns, and because there is a sense of urgency, we felt it was important to inform you about these changes, as the State Board of Ed does plan to take action on this in their May board meeting, May 16th, and these proposed changes would take effect August 1st. So Mr. Howard will go through what these changes mean, and this really goes back to when we implemented our new standards back in 2015. The DOE also goes through the standard setting around concordance scores and that alignment to the FSA for English Language Arts, as well as to the Algebra 1 EOC, and this is really for the DOE to get into that alignment. We want to make sure that you are aware of the impact this will have on our graduation rates.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Oswald. Good evening, Dr. Fenoy and board members. As Mr. Oswald stated, the DOE has come out with a proposed concordant score realignment to the Florida Standards Assessment, or the FSA. As you know, we are statutorily required to, each time there's a new assessment, to align an alternate concordant score assessment to give students additional opportunities to meet their graduation requirement. What I'm sharing with you right now is a little bit of history. You can see that in FCAT and FCAT 2.0, that the SAT reading requirement was around 420 or 430. In June, when the DOE came out with their original proposal, they were proposing an SAT score of 500. Obviously, that required an immediate feedback from the districts, as that requirement is higher than the requirement to enter state colleges to earn a high school diploma. In March 20th, the DOE came out with a revised proposal of 480 on the SAT to meet the language arts requirement, or an 18 on the ACT, and then 420 for the algebra concordant on SAT, or a 16 of ACT. And what I'm going to share with you tonight is the impact that this would have. I believe we've all stated here that we believe in high standards. The intent really is to align the expectations to the Florida Standards Assessment, which, if you remember, is to align preparing students to leave high school without needing remediation as they enter into at least the state college system or a career. So when we look back, I think Mr. Oswald mentioned this, so this proposal is going to be presented to the State Board in May to take effect August 1st. However, students who have earned a passing score prior to that will be grandfathered in. And the DOE is still taking feedback. In February, during our instructional review, I shared this with you. And this is the extent to which our students this past year used concordant scores to meet their graduation requirement. You can see there's quite a range there. 45% of our ELL students met their assessment requirement through a concordant score, 31% of our black students, 23% of our Hispanic students, and so on. So we know this has, if you will, a disproportionate impact on student groups. When we applied this rule to our graduation rates that just came out, where the district earned 85% graduation rate and district operated schools were at 90, you can see it would have dropped those graduation rates by 13 and 15 percentage points respectively. When we look at the impact by subgroup, you can see the double-digit impacts on our black students, 18 percentage points for our Hispanic students, and then our ESE and ELL students, the impact would be pretty enormous. In total, when I looked at this would have graduated about 1,100 fewer of our Palm Beach County students, thereby taking away an opportunity to enter post-secondary. I think when we look at this data, what we're not saying is these students aren't capable of earning those scores. Some need more time, earlier interventions, and each time the state's raised the bar, Palm Beach has risen to the challenge. So this is looking at our current 12th graders. When we look at our current 12th graders who took their ELA test 2 years ago, and we're looking at just the level 1 and 2 students. So current seniors, when they were in 10th grade, that scored a level 1 or level 2. So those are the students that need a concordance score to meet their graduation requirement. That green call out is showing you that under the current standard, almost 50% of those level 1 and 2 students would meet their graduation requirement. With the new proposed ELA requirement, only 17% of those level 1 and 2 students would meet their graduation requirement. And you can see what the corresponding numbers are for ACT, and overall, about 54% of our level 1 and 2 students would meet the current requirement, but only about 22% would meet either the ACT or ACT requirement. When we look at Algebra 1, the numbers are a little different, but what you can see is the PERT requirement of 97, that 62% of our current seniors would get over that bar, but when we look at the SAT and ACT, or the combined proposed concordance score, that number would drop to 43% of our current seniors that would meet their graduation requirement. And just going to walk you through this. I know frequently we talk about disaggregated data. So this is looking by both race and gender. And I'm showing you the first set of bars because there's a lot of information on this slide. Those first 2 bars are showing our black females. The first bar at 52 are the percentage of those level 1 and 2 black female students who would meet the current standard of 430 on the SAT, but only 20% of those young ladies would meet the proposed 480 SAT. And on the ACT, 63%, I'm sorry, this is algebra, 63% would meet the algebra requirement, only 35% would meet the new algebra requirement. So when you look at these bars, you'll see what it looks like for our black males would drop from 45 to 17% of those level 1 and 2 kids. And similarly, the numbers for each of the groups, really, it's pretty stark when you look at the effect. So,
So we are working closely with our principals to get this information to them. There is a window to get input to the DOE. We are updating our a white paper that we provided earlier, and we're going to have Dr. Fenoy submit that to the DOE for the district. The public is also open to provide public comment. There is an online tool that we can provide out through our communications office so that the public so chooses to weigh in on this, they may as well. And in the meantime, we will work with our schools to make sure that any students we can get grandfathered in, that we will work on a process for that as well. But we felt it very important for the board to get this information because of the timeliness and how quick the DOE is moving through. So thank you, Dr. Fenoy.
Dr. Fenoy, would it be appropriate for the district to, as the board, to submit something to DOE and comment on this and our concern about it?
I think if the board finds that appropriate, I absolutely would concur that it would be appropriate for the board to do that.
I'd like to suggest that we draft a letter. So is there a motion?
Yeah.
Motion by Mrs. Andrews, second by Mrs. McQuinn. Any discussion? Mrs. Andrews, Mr.
Yes.
Barbieri.
Can we check to see what the other superintendents and school districts are doing in reference to this, please?
Yes, ma'am, we will absolutely do that for you.
All right, Mr. Barbieri.
Yeah, why don't we tell the DOE to raise the concordance score so high that all of our students fail, and then they can close down the entire public system in 1 year. This way they're just doing it a little bit at a time. They give us less money and they raise the concordance scores, and we have less and less students graduating. So just let them all fail, and then they can claim that they should all get vouchers to go to private schools. So I think we should put that in the letter.
Dr. Robinson.
So in addition to the letter, I would like for us to consider whether or not we do a call to action. Because I think this actually is threatening many children. I mean, it's, you know, we're going to have to double down and make sure that we intensify our support and accelerate these kids. But, like, those are some dramatic dips. And it impacts, in ELA, it impacts every group. right? So I would like to see what my fellow board members think. I think that this is something that we ask PTA and everybody else to join forces with us.
All right, Mrs. McQuinn, did you have a question? Oh, okay, Mrs. Andrews.
I don't see Mr. Watt in here right now, and sometimes our legislators are very busy and they may not know how serious this event is. So could someone, whoever it is it Mr. Berg, can you get to Mr. Watt and make sure that he gets this to our delegation and find out what's going on as it relates to this, if they're aware of it, and how we all can work together, to kind of get the message out that this can be devastating. We're working hard for all of our children, but this is something that we need to kind of talk about and discuss before it's actually approved by the State Board of Education. All of us have to come together right now.
Dr. Robinson, would you like to amend the motion to also include a call to action?
I would, so I'm amending the motion to add a call to action.
Motion by Dr. Robinson, second. So any other discussion? We'll call the question. The first item to vote on is the amended motion to include a call to action. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. The full motion now would be to draft a letter to the DOE and with the call to action. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call a question. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. So thank you very much. Board member comments. Anybody have any comments that they would like to make? I think everyone's about ready to go home. Mrs. Andrews.
I just want to take a moment to congratulate all those students last night. The Cambridge Scholar Award celebration that was held at the Airport Hilton. All those students who received those awards, the top students in Palm Beach County. I want to congratulate them. I want to congratulate all the teachers who teach them every single day, the principals who were out there last night, many of the board members. We were all there. It was a big evening. Mr. Oswald, you get it done all the time, having us right on top with the Cambridge Assessment International Education Program here in Palm Beach County. It was a big deal. Congratulations to all of you.
Any others? Dr. Robinson?
So I just want to make note that on the 50th anniversary of the assassination of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., we had the ceremonial swearing in of the first black superintendent in Palm Beach County schools. I just think Dr. King's probably happy.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. All right, any other comments? We'll move on to the consent. Anybody want to pull any items from consent? If not, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Mrs. Brill, second by Mrs. Whitfield. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We have no speakers. We had one, but I don't believe she's here. Is Ann Eisenberg still here? She left. Well, I will read her 3-minute statement. She wanted to thank the board for the approval of their contract. So we'll move to new business.
I recommend the board approve the application of South Tech Success Center, Incorporated, for any and all of the reasons stated by the evaluation instruments and for the overall assessment, and authorize the superintendent and or his designee to sign all related correspondence and documents.
Is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Barbieri, second by Mrs. Brill. Any discussion? Mrs. Brill.
Thank you. I just want to say how excited I am, how happy I am to see this on the agenda. It's been a long time coming since Mr. Kidd and I sat down and he shared with me his vision of a program that would take these students who are at risk, low performing, many with special needs, and have a way to help them graduate and also train them and get them jobs. And I'm very excited. I'm thrilled. And I hope we will all unanimously support it. Thank you.
Mr. Barbieri.
Yeah, I wish all the charter schools in the district were as good as this one. It's here for the right reason. So thank you, Mr. Kidd.
I think you get about six additional dittos.
Ditto.
Any other discussion? If not, we'll call the question. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Dr. Fenoy, P3.
I recommend the board approve the personnel addendum as submitted.
Motion by Dr. Robinson, second by Mrs. McQuinn. Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. TL1.
I recommend the board approve the memorandum of agreement with Florida Department of Health, Palm Beach County, effective August 1, 2018 through July 31st, 2019. The parties may renew the agreement annually if agreed upon by both parties in writing, but such renewal shall not extend beyond July 31st, 2023. This agreement is contingent upon authorized appropriation of the funds under the final fiscal budget approved by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC.
Motion by Dr. Robinson, second by Mrs. Brill. Just a quick question. Does that allow administrative approval renewal of that each year, or does that mean that each year it's renewed by coming to the board?
Mr. Oswald?
Oh, I think I stumped him with a question there for a second.
I'm out of answers tonight. It's approval each year, and we needed to move this up so that we may receive these funds.
All right. Any discussion? If not, all in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. That concludes our... Oh, we had good cause to do P3 so the people who just got appointed can actually take their jobs. And the agreement with the Department of Health is to allow us to implement this program that's effective April 13th. Is there a motion to adjourn? Mrs. Brill. Is there a second? Mr. Barbieri. All in favor? All opposed? We only missed by an hour.